This week on the podcast, old friend Carl Richards joins me to talk about his new book, Your Money, Reimagining Wealth in 101 Simple Sketches. If the name sounds familiar, he created the Sketch Guy column in the New York Times. It ran there for a decade. He's probably done more than anyone to expand usage of the phrase, the behavior gap, the difference between people's portfolios and what the results are. I thought our conversation was charming, and I think you will also. With no further ado, here's me and Carl Richards talking about money. Carl, welcome to Bloomberg.
Very so fun. Been looking forward to this for years.
Same. Long overdue. We've had you on At the Money, but we haven't had you for the long sit down. Let's start out talking about your background. University of Utah, School of Business, Bachelor's of Science in Finance. That implies finance, investing, money. Was that the original career plan?
Yeah, no, not even close.
Really?
Right, yeah. So I was, I've told this story occasionally. I was an undeclared major, which means back then it meant you had no idea what you wanted to do with your life, right? I was the newest hire at a landscaping company, so I was literally digging ditches for a living. I come home one day, my wife, we'd recently been married. This was 95. Recently been married, and she has the Help Wanted ads open. She's got a job, degree in finance, a job as the CFO of a small real estate company. Got the Help Wanted ads open. So I was like, hey, Corey, her name's Corey. I'm like, Corey, what are you doing? She said, I'm looking for a job. I said, well, what are you finding? She said, no. I said, but you have one. And she said, I know, I'm looking for you. I was like, what are you finding? And she found what we both thought was a security guard job.
At a little shop called Fidelity?
A security guard. I was like, I could work as a mall cop at night. This would be great. So I can still go to school full time. This would be great. I went to apply. Nothing about Kung Fu. Nothing about self-defense. They were asking about things I didn't know what they were.
Securities.
Exactly. I didn't know the difference. And I
was going to call BS on this because it sounds like, wait, how are you a finance major? But that happened afterwards.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I get through the interview, which tells you a lot about the applicant pool, right? And they had narrowed it down
to none.
Two of us.
Yeah.
And they offered it to the other guy, and the other guy said, I don't want it, you take it. So that's how I ended up at Fidelity's National Call Center just before Netscape's IPO.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I started on a trading desk, and I was told, hey, rookie, no trading, Netscape IPO. So you and I started just about around the same time.
You know what was crazy about that was, like, after I got clear that I wasn't a security guard, I was like, what's this job? And I was sort of looking around, and everybody was using calculators, right, and math. And I was like, okay, this must be a math job. And then, a couple weeks into training, they called us out onto the trading floor to answer phones. Because back then, you couldn't get a quote, you couldn't place a trade unless you called. And it was the day of the Netscape IPO, and I remember thinking, this isn't math. You know what I mean? And that was like my first introduction to this idea of like, so I like to say that I got in by accident, but I've stayed because of that moment. Like this, like, what is this crazy thing that we call money? Because nobody was doing math in there. They were excited, mad, angry, upset, right? So it was, that was, because I always thought it was a mistake. Getting into finance. I always thought I would go off and do I was going to do the Stephen Covey organizational behavior thing at BYU.
Right.
That's what I always thought. Because work is where people go to do things that matter. And then some of these early experiences open the door to, like, money is the ultimate portal.
Hey, this money thing is...
It's the ultimate portal to somebody's soul. Right. Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you really care about? I can find out pretty quickly. How you spend your money and how you spend your time. So that's how I stayed. So yes, afterwards I was like, maybe I should get a degree in this.
So then you switch, you get your degree in finance from the David Eckley School of Business. When do you go for CFP? When do you become a certified financial planner?
I was looking at that the other day.
You don't remember, do you?
No, all I remember is I got made fun of.
For taking...
Yeah, remember back in the day, right? Like I left...
I don't remember.
I left Fidelity, and I went to work for a big brokerage firm, which we'll go unnamed, but has a bull as its symbol, is owned by a bank, right? And about that, and I got my SEMA designation, because that's what, like, cool kids did, the sort of institutional consulting stuff. Because I thought, I gotta figure this thing out, this whole money thing. And then I started to get my CFP, so it was in the day when people in the that side of the business where like, what are you wasting your time on that for? It's pretty early
This whole
on.
fiduciary thing. I
It
mean,
is
really.
seriously.
Waste of
goals.
time. What are you going to not charge people commission? I mean, what are you thinking, Carl?
That's right. So fun.
So what I find fascinating about your career, and I'm now learning all the parallels between our career.
Yeah.
You kind of reinvent yourself as a communicator, as an author, as a speaker. Is that something that helped you when you set up your own investment firm? Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, I can remember who was in the room and where I was when I first sketched something out, because I wasn't a doodler in school. It's obvious that I didn't take any art classes, right?
I don't know if I would say it's obvious, because these are really kind of interesting. Like Charles Schultz very famously drew peanuts and said he didn't have skill.
That's a super generous comparison. Thank you.
Right.
But
I'm not making that comparison.
Yeah, okay, good.
I'm just saying someone else.
Somebody else said something similar. Good. But I just remember sitting across the table from some really smart clients. And he was an ER doctor. She was a technology sales rep, like at EMC or something back in the day,
I
right?
remember.
Super smart. And I was trying to explain some concept, and I was just getting blank stares. You know the feeling. And that had happened before. But this is the first time it dawned on me, like, wait, they're really smart. This must be my problem. So out of an act of desperation, in the shared conference room, there was a whiteboard. Nobody used it. And I stood up one day and was like, no, like this. And just like some boxes and arrows, like an estate planner would do, you know? And they were like, oh. And I that moment I was like, I didn't make a grand conclusion. I just remember thinking, that was really interesting. So that started this idea of like so I started thinking like anytime I got asked a question more than once. So the second time I got asked it, I was like, what if I just wrote down the answer and sent it to everybody who asked? And I don't know if you remember, but there was these things called blogs back in the day.
Not only do I remember,
you were one of the OGs.
I still am doing it. I have no interest in Beehive or Substack. I kind of learned early on, I don't want to give my content to another company. I want to control it.
Yeah. So started putting those things up on the internet, an answer to a question with some sort of diagram. And by the way, the hand-drawn sketches were just a flaw at the beginning. I mean, I went to download Adobe Illustrator, and the download thing said 3 hours. And I was like, anything that takes 3 hours to download, I should not be using.
Illustrator would ruin this. The whole beauty of, and I know most of you are listening to this and not watching me thumb through a book, but the whole beauty of your sketches is just how simple and informative they are, with just a few lines, a few circles, a few squiggles. It's not a giant, organizational chart. Right. It's, he did that in 90 seconds, and look how much information is in that.
Well, thank you. But that early on, it was like I was only doing that because I couldn't download Adobe Illustrator. I saw it as a flaw, and so every couple of years early on, I would get them designed by somebody, and I'd post those. And people would be like, where are the hand draw? So I finally learned. And I'm only telling you these stories because it's so tempting of us to look back and create these like beautiful narratives of the experience. But it turns out there was just a lot of random experimentation and playing, because it turns out the thing I thought was a flaw ended up being the feature. Right?
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised you think of it as a flaw.
Not anymore.
But how long did it take you to get to that point? Because to me, the beauty of your drawings are, first of all, it's obviously not AI slop. It's
right.
You predate AI by 20 years or so, but more importantly, they just look and feel human and personal. And someone has really put some time into figuring out, how do I communicate a complicated idea in the least amount of letters, words, images?
Yeah.
So at what point did you think, hey, I could do something with these drawings? Maybe publish them in the New York Times every week?
Never. What happened was I was putting these up on this website. I tried to stop.
Right. I love that.
It's like a compulsion.
Can't help it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and I even had people around me who were like, just focus on building your business. What are you doing? And I was like, and they were right. Do you know what I mean? Like all the evidence. But at the time, and I kept putting it up there, and there's a guy named Kent who I did not know. Kent sent them to a guy named Ron, who I did not know. Ron Lieber at the Times.
Oh, sure. I know Ron.
And
I know
Kent-
of Ron Lieber.
Kent didn't know Ron. And Ron just sent a note like, hey, I think you might like these. And Ron sent me a note, and I have that email still because nobody
Really?
believes me. The
Right.
email was, hey, we love these. Could we try something? And I knew enough from my like security guard background, right, to be a kid in the hills of Utah to
Right.
say, I mean, I would
Sure,
have never
let's
thought. I
go.
was like, yeah, of course. What do you have in mind? And that's kind of how, and I've talked to Ron since, like, why did you open that email? Because like he gets, like
You
there's
get inundated with
stacks of
garbage,
books,
right.
stacks of things that he would love to reply to and read because that's the kind of human he is, but he just doesn't have time.
Right.
So why he opened that one that day? I don't know. I should still be sending Kent a gift every year.
Every
So
Christmas.
I never thought maybe this could appear in the Times.
So from the late 90s, when do you launch the firm that you ultimately build up and sell in 2012?
Yeah. So I'm really, really bad with dates, but we were in
Early 2000s?
2008 or 9.
So after the financial crisis.
That's exactly right.
So 4 years, you build this up. Why
Yeah.
sell it? You just like, hey, I'm going to focus
Well,
on,
the first
on
thing
my
I should-
security guard business?
Yeah,
Or?
the first thing I should tell you is why I left and started my own firm. I remember the impetus for that was two things. One,
This is at Fidelity.
no,
From
I was
Fidelity.
now working at the big brokerage firm.
Oh, okay.
And I left
gotcha.
to start my own RIA firm.
Got it.
And I remember do you remember that cover? I can't remember if it was Fortune or Forbes. It had the cover with Rex and David at DFA, and it said how the really smart money invest.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember? I had
Vaguely.
I had that
Vaguely.
in the top drawer of my desk every time I opened my drawer because I still had this like, I'm just a kid from the hills in Utah, like imposter syndrome thing. Like I'm supposed to be in jail. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like, and I'm helping people make really important decisions with money. I need to figure out, like, am I a security guard? Is this math? Like, what is this thing? And so this idea of like how the really smart money invests, I called and was like, how do I get access to this? And they're like, well, you can't do it where you're at. So I left for that reason. And then the second reason ended up being one of the greatest disappointments of my life. I left because I thought it was really important to be able to tell everybody that I was a fiduciary and that everybody would care. And I left, and one of the greatest disappointments in my career was nobody seemed to care. I mean, of course, you and I both know it's incredibly important, but most people don't know. I just remember people looking at me like, fiducia, what? Like, what do you? Of course, you put my interests first. So that's why I left to start the firm.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you sell it in 2012. When did the sketch guy columns for the New York Times start?
Before that, is that right? No, oh yeah, way before I sold the firm. Part of the reason I sold, so I think 2000.
You sold the firm to concentrate on your doodles.
That's right. So the book came out in 2012, and I sold the firm about the same time. And I remember specifically having this conversation with my wife. I was like, "Oh, we'll never sell this thing." I always thought of it as a security blanket, like I'd never sell it.
It's an annuity. It generates
That's right.
income every year, and typically you have a 10% wind at your back just due to market
Such a
appreciation.
great business, right?
It is a good business.
That's right.
And especially if you're a fiduciary and doing the right thing by your client,
That's exactly right.
you not only make a decent living, you get to sleep at night.
That's exactly right. All the things. So I never thought I'd sell it. There was just this increasing demand. The book was coming out. I was getting asked to speak all over the world. It was clear that I really, really liked that stuff.
One or
I
the
had
other.
to make a choice.
Yeah.
And in the end, I was like, this is a security blanket. My wife said, hey, maybe it's an anchor. And I was like,
You guys
Really?
speak the same love language. It's kind of fascinating.
really?
Yeah, because just think about
Yeah.
that's a very insightful observation from your wife.
Yeah.
She's the one who tried to get you a hat, a shield, and have you parade around the mall like Paul Blart. I mean, that
Exactly right.
you guys are very much on the same
Yeah, I
wavelength.
know. It's been super. I mean, she's been amazing. 31 years and amazing.
Wow,
But
I'm
yeah,
33.
anyway. Really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
it's the best it's ever been, and I hope it's better tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Like one of those like two competing truths at the same time. Like I could have never dreamed of it,
and I just wanted to get
a little bit better tomorrow. And I hope I never stop thinking that way. But anyway,
Right.
left, sold the firm, full time into the speaking, writing thing for a little while. Was at a big firm, sort of the firm that bought my company. Was there for a while.
Another nameless firm.
Yeah, that was back then. It was Buckingham. So bam,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I kind of remember that.
Went and toured for those guys and loved it.
Who else did you work with there? There were some people I really liked.
Larry Swedroe, Tim
Tremendous
Maurer,
Larry Swedroe,
yeah,
right?
that whole crew, Adam Beerbaum, the whole crew there. It was really, really good.
Really,
Yeah.
really interesting. So, So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about behavior, but you came from a big shop. You came from several big shops, Fidelity, Merrill, as well as Buckingham. They all have PhDs in Monte Carlo simulations, and they run factor model tests, and yet people still buy high and sell low. What is it about the human condition that is a permanent drag on performance?
It's such that feels to me like the question that I've been exploring for 20 years.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, I thought at first, I remember I almost left the business because I couldn't solve this problem. Like after I got my SEMA designation and I came back.
Explain for lay people what that acronym
The Certified Investment Management Analyst. So it was sort of like for people who are doing institutional consulting work. So I thought it was like.
So not a CFA, but more than a CFP.
Yeah, and sort of like CFA light that can talk to people, and it was, back then it was taught in conjunction with Wharton, so I went to Wharton for 2. Like that was the whole reason I'm always looking for external validation back then, right? So
goes hand in hand with the imposter syndrome.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But I came back from that working with clients and realized, like, okay, now I've got this great system, the best training in the world. Honestly, some of the best training at the firm, right? And yet I still had this repeated experience where we would create really detailed spreadsheets of how to hire and fire managers. And then we'd have this experience over and over where the manager that showed up on our buy screen, we would commit clients' money to it. It would become I thought that was our job, the search for the best investment. We'd find the best investment, we'd commit clients' money to it, and then it would go through a normal cyclical period of underperformance, and it would show up on our fire screen. And I repeated that like 2 or 3 times over maybe a 3 or 4 year period, and was like, I don't know what's going on. Like maybe it's just me. And then I ran across some of that industry research around investor returns versus investment returns, where you see that the average investment, right? Average investor underperforms the average investment. Now, whether it's anything close to...
Not only does the average investor underperform the average investment, but the average investor underperforms their own investments.
So great. It's like, I just remember like being so excited that it wasn't just me. Do you know what I mean? Like, wait, this is an industry-wide huge problem. So that's when I was like, wow, how do we... I mean, what that research said to me was that I could own a mediocre investment. If I behaved correctly, I would outperform 99% of my neighbors. And that's all we care about in the first place, right? Is outperforming our neighbors. That's the whole goal. Right? So
how is that idiot down the block getting rich and I'm not?
Yeah, exactly. As if that's the thing that matters. But that's what we...
But that's how people roll.
That's exactly right. So I just remember... So digging into that a bit, I really think like Buffett's statement that if you were to design a poor investor, you would design a human.
Right.
Is as close as we get. Like the hardwiring, we are hardwired. And I think it was in one of Zweig's books where they hooked up scanners and had people open their brokerage statements, right? Like talk about a masochistic experiment.
Right.
And if the brokerage statement was down, you process that in the same part of your brain as you do mortal danger.
Yeah.
Like where I'm doing for like a bear breaking through the room.
Fight or flight, right there. My favorite Bill Bernstein quote is, it's all about your amygdala. If you don't get your limbic system under control, you will die poor. And it's that exact same system.
That's right. And then, and if the statement's up, same part of your brain as you do security and pleasure. And I think it was in the book that for women, that's chocolate. And for men, that's sex. And I didn't quite understand the difference in the book. But
between sex and chocolate?
Just wow. Anyway.
It must be a fun date.
So if that's what's going on, it's a little bit like the interaction we have with our phones now. Like on the other side of that interaction are 300 PhDs trying to get us to pay attention to what's going on Instagram, right? And I just think we finally have to recognize, unless we put some serious guardrails in between us and the big mistake, we're going to make the big mistake, because it feels like, I don't care what you tell me, Barry, my hand's on a stove, I'm taking it off. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So I think that to me is the work of worrying about, like, what does it mean to be a real investor, a successful investor, versus what it means to find good investments.
Let's talk a little bit about the behavior gap. I don't know if you created that phrase, but you've done more than anybody else I know to popularize that phrase. Tell us what the behavior gap actually is.
Yeah. Yeah, so it started out as a very narrow thing, which we already pointed to. This difference between, and the technical term would be the difference between time-weighted rates of return and dollar-weighted. And because I've had to explain this so many times, maybe I'll go through the explanation.
Sure.
Imagine you open a newspaper. There's an ad for a mutual fund. It says the fund has returned 10% a year for the last 10 years. Right? That's the investment return. And just for a minute, forget taxes, any sort of fees or whatever. That's the investment return. That's the return you would have gotten if you had invested money at the beginning of the 10-year period and not added or taken any away and left it there for the 10-year period. But nobody invests that way except your clients, right? Like nobody invests that way. We are always chasing, right?
Right.
Whatever we hear in the news, the Financial Pornography Network waves their hands and we've got a list of 10 funds to buy or whatever. And the old days, smart money, like the smart. So we end up running around, and that's the average investment return is 10%, but the average investor return is always different from that.
Who does the annual report that everybody criticizes?
Yeah, for sure.
That shows this differential.
So that was one of the early reports I ran across was Dalbar. And I have not spent I spent the time years ago to understand. I don't really know anything about that number. I know Morningstar does a number, and it seems to be 80 to 100 basis points, not 6%.
Right. And then what about the SPIVA numbers on manager performance?
Yeah, for sure.
So you're running across these behavioral errors on pretty much both sides. The manager, who's running their funds and frequently underperforming, and the longer that timeline is, the greater percentage of manager underperforming. And on the other side, the buyers of those funds tend to not only underperform the benchmark, they're underperforming their own funds. So if only there was an alternative way to invest.
Let me tell you a quick story. So this is back during my institutional consulting days. So we had this client. We do a manager search and selection. We find the best large cap value manager for this client and hire that large cap value manager. And as I recall, it was Davis, New York Venture, back in the day, right?
Chris Davis.
Yep. We go 2 or 3 years. Davis has one of those cyclical underperforming moments, as they're going to do.
Right. Especially value, which runs in and out of favor.
Yeah,
so
and it was even in comparison to other value managers, right?
Oh,
as they're going to do, right? So we fire Davis, not knowing any better. We hire another, and I can't remember. We'll just call him XYZ, right? Like we hire this new, and the client's like, yeah, I understand. It's 2.5 years in. We make this change. We go to XYZ. 2.5 years later. 3 years later, XYZ does the same thing. Cyclical, he underperforms. We go through our manager screening. They're up on our fire list. And guess who pops into our buy list?
Chris Davis.
Yeah, call the client, thinking I'm so smart. Hey, we need to fire XYZ and hire this manager. It's called Davis. And they were like, wait. Didn't we, this client's name was Jeremy. Didn't we just fire them 2.5 years ago? And I was like, yeah. Maybe. And he said, you know what I'd like? I would like the return of Davis from the day we first hired them till now. I'd like the return of XYZ from the day you first hired Davis to now. And I'd like that compared to my account. And I was, of course, like, that's not how it works. And he said, yeah, that's what I'd like to see. And we all know the story, right? He underperformed both of those. Like he would have been fine in either one of those.
Just leave it alone.
And that was my first moment of like, I got to get out of this business. I got to go to law school or something. And that's when I discovered this idea, or for myself, discovered this idea that maybe the investment process only matters to the degree that I can behave.
So let's talk about what you call the financial pornography networks. They talk all day long about 10-year yield and the Fed and credit spreads and geopolitics and earnings and news. And you spend most of your books, plural, talking about fear, regret, envy. What moves markets and what, more importantly, moves investors' portfolios?
Gosh, that's such a good question. And I want to be like careful about.
I do this for a living.
I know. It's a really good question. And I want to be careful about the term financial pornography network. I think that was originally a Jane Bryant Quinn term.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Which I love. I love the term, but I think it applies just really broadly. And
I call it the fire hose of financial noise. Is
yeah,
that a fair
that's fine. I think like
phrase?
sometimes media circus, like it's a
Right.
media business, and there's nothing. I want to be clear. Like I live in the hills in Utah. I ride my mountain bike every day. The trails out in my backyard. I have a different hobby. Just because that's my hobby doesn't mean my hobbies are better than anybody else's hobbies.
They're
right?
healthier.
But I walk in this building and I see happy human after happy human walking through the halls. This is like shiny, happy people everywhere. Who am I?
Free cappuccino.
Who am I to say, right? But I think what's important is if we start to recognize, like, what are we doing it for? What's the goal? Because if it's something to talk about, there's nothing wrong with that. If it's entertainment, there's nothing wrong with that. But basing your financial decisions, your actual investment decisions, on something you heard, even if it was secret underneath the subway and it was labeled, isn't The Economist the one that all the really smart people read anyway? Right? Like, you're not the only one that's heard that. So I think we have to be careful with sort of making big investment decisions based on every wind of news or entertainment, right? Versus linking, and again, this is back to like, how do we solve this behavior gap problem? I think it has to be, the portfolio has to be designed to give me the greatest likelihood of reaching my goals, and my goals have to be carefully clarified, and they're going to change over time. So it's this constant process of saying, are these investment decisions aligned with what I want out of my life? Both of those sides of that equation are really challenging. Getting clear about what you want out of your life, super hard. Making sure you have a portfolio built on data and evidence and that will get you the closest to that, also really hard.
So let's break that into two pieces.
Yeah.
Because I kind of feel like there are two distinct conversations.
Yeah.
We'll get to the goal portion in a moment.
Sure.
I want to stay with the media circus.
Yeah.
Isn't there really a very simple problem?
Yeah.
And that is the mismatch in time horizons when you're putting money away to save for retirement, or even to save for 529 for college, or saving to buy a house or a second house or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you're thinking 5, 10, 50 years, but all of the financial noise, that fire hose, that's the church of what's happening right now.
Right.
So if we can simply readjust our media consumption into some context with the longevity of our portfolio goals, doesn't that solve a lot of these? Why if I'm putting this money away for 20, 30 years, what do I care what happened on a random Thursday?
But what if we actually kept track of every single change of opinion, right? And how sure somebody was. Right? Remember that? What's that old statement that even a broken clock is right twice a day?
I was going to say, often wrong, never in doubt.
That's exactly right. Often
is the
wrong.
line I like.
And that's like, again, entertaining, and there's nothing wrong with entertainment. We go to the movies, we go see plays, we ride our mountain bikes. Like, there's nothing wrong with entertainment. I just think we have to understand what it is. And what you're saying is, that's day-to-day entertainment. I like it because I can talk about it. It's important. Don't base my 20, my 10, my 5, my 10, my 20-year decisions on it.
Right. And yet we continue to see people have that problem. So let me re-ask this question in a different way. How do you bridge the gap between what clients ask for, what they think they want, and what they actually need?
Yeah, so another, Barry, you're super good at this whole job.
It's all AI. It's all, I didn't write anything.
No, because that, now you've layered another problem in here, is because clients, the humans that we call clients, show up having been trained by us as an industry, speaking really broadly, that what matters is this day-to-day stuff, right? They think the job of an investor is to find the best investment, because we taught them that on the television, waving our hands. So it's no surprise. Like, we did this to ourselves. It's no surprise that clients come in expecting that, and that's why I think clients who work with real financial advisors often go through a period of the financial pornography detox program, right? Where they maybe wake up 18, 24 months into the relationship and go, hey, you know what? I'm not really paying that much attention anymore to that. Like, all the stuff I used to think mattered, was critical, has lost its urgency, it's tenor, right? So we've got this problem of like, it feels like, and again, back to the wiring in our bodies, like it feels like we should be doing something. Mm-hmm. The news is saying we should be doing something. The guy at the club is saying we should be doing something. And I call Barry, and Barry says, hey, let's hold on for a second.
Catch
Let's
your breath.
review are these goals still the goals? Is this still what's important to you? Turns out, if that's true, we're okay here. And almost always we end up at the same place, which is diversified, low-cost portfolio, hold on to it for a long time.
There's this inherent bias towards action.
For sure.
Which is the nature of that fight or flight response.
Yeah, one or the other, right?
Don't just sit
hide.
there, do something. And really the right way to do it is don't just do something, sit there.
Yeah.
But that causes
So
a great
hard.
deal of uncomfortableness amongst people. Let's take this to the next phase. So Jack Bogle and Vanguard gave us low cost. Everything we've learned from Richard Thaler and the behavioral finance folks is about the importance of humility. What does the next generation of investors learn once they figure out diversified low cost and a little bit of humility? Where do you go next?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what's so hard about that is this, like, everyone's a gambler thing that's sort of slipped in.
Especially today.
Yeah, that's sort of slipped in. Like, it's I don't envy growing up as a 25, 30-year-old person trying to sort this out right now, because it just feels like everything's a bet, right? And
it is.
Yeah, and it is. I think, to me, I mean, I'm careful with advice, but the observation that I've noticed most frequently is that if I can, when I'm younger, focus on human capital and then realize that the money over here does the job of compounding, right? My main job should be to earn a bit more, raise my human capital. My ability to earn and save when I'm young will far outstrip getting an extra 25 basis points by paying attention to some newsletter on the internet.
It's funny you mention gambling being everywhere. We were talking before the podcast about Nine Finger Howie, and he wrote a post and created an index called the Degeneracy Index, where he puts in all of the various prediction markets and gambling apps, and it's been outperforming the NASDAQ, which has been on fire, like 2-1. And it just is a kind of warning.
What do we do with that? Yeah.
It's a warning that, all right, I understand the Supreme Court decision that says gambling can't just be legal in one state, but maybe the decision isn't to make it legal everywhere. Maybe the decision is to say an entire industry based on human foibles, cognitive errors, and innumeracy is kind of an evil industry.
It's just the problem we need to realize that we're just not wired for it. It's not that we're dumb. It's not that we're this bad. Like we can have any discussion we want about the morality of the whole thing, but the underneath it all sits this idea that we're not wired to handle it. Like we're not. And I think this is another piece that's interesting right now is I don't think we're really sort of wired to handle the level of uncertainty that we're dealing with right now, like the sort of change fatigue.
And it seems like a lot of what Wall Street sells is this illusion of certainty.
Yeah, this false sense of precision. Like certainty's so easy to sell. It's impossible to deliver, but it's super easy to sell because everybody wants to buy it. So I think those are the two, like human capital and learning how to come to grips with the reality that the world is uncertain.
So the quote of yours that always stays with me is money is less about math and more about emotion. That was your insight watching the Netscape IPO. Why is that so challenging for this industry, for finance, to accept?
It seems to me, and I've been in a lot of the rooms where this discussion takes place, that we have a deep sense of physics envy.
For sure.
Like we just want the law of gravity for money. And when we understand that the systems that handle money, markets, economies, politics, and then humans, those are a mix of complex adaptive systems. They're not simple systems. And they're not even complicated. They're complex, adaptive, almost chaotic. And when you understand a complex adaptive system, you start to understand that, like, there is no even with the benefit of hindsight, and you see this all the time, I'm sure, like even with the benefit of hindsight, we look back and like, here are 7 steps to having, it turns out that only works for that period of time, right? You replicate those 7 steps, it doesn't work again.
All models assume the future looks like the past, and very often the future looks nothing like the past.
Exactly. Like all models are wrong, let's make ours useful is like much more helpful. This idea of saying like, okay, if that's the reality I live in, then how do I navigate a complex adaptive system? And then that gets us to this point where it's more about, like, the problem is you, the problem is me, the problem is, like, it's us. And so I think that's why it's so hard, is we have to say, oh man, we don't know exactly what we're dealing with here. Because it's so cute after a big crisis to see all the people who have very specific plans about how to avoid that exact same. We're still taking our shoes off in airports.
You don't have TSA pre yet?
Well, yeah, I do. I haven't. That's true. I haven't taken my shoes off.
I'm going to share one of my favorite random data points. I don't know if this made it into the last book, but earthquake insurance. Earthquake insurance sales go up tremendously right after an earthquake.
For sure.
And if you think about how the plate tectonics work, about these two pieces of
I'm so excited for you to tell me.
Yeah,
keep going.
Sliding. The odds of an earthquake happening after that 10, 20, 30 years of pressure is released plummets immediately. Yeah. The worst time to buy earthquake insurance
over and over
is
again.
Right after the earthquake.
Yeah.
The best time is, hey, this is an earthquake zone, and we haven't had an earthquake in 20, 25 years.
Right.
Now's the time. I remember getting offered structured notes with downside protection in like October 2002. And I'm like, why do I need this? The NASDAQ is down 83%. Where were you in late 99 when this might have been useful? Right. Down 83%, I'm a buyer. I want all the upside. Why do I want to give any of this? Like, I had that conversation in a room full of salespeople pitching this, and got called into the chairman's office. What are you doing? We're trying to set up a relationship with these people. I'm like, this is crap. Nobody should own this product. And I'm like, I know you want a relationship. Tell them not bring us junk that we don't need. I mean, look, I like dessert as much as the next guy.
This is what I came for right here.
But I remember, there are several times when I would get called as the market strategist, called into the vice chair, who was general counsel, or the chair. He's like, what do you do? By the way, the firm, Lehman Brothers.
Yeah.
So not only was I right, but the counterparty risk was you would have gotten nothing anyway.
Yeah, and we will go to the lengths we will go to make up stories about that after the fact. Do you remember, look, I'm going to deeply paraphrase, and I'm sure I'm ruining the story, but after long-term capital management went under,
98.
Do you remember, and I again, there was some quote where one of those PhD Nobel Prize winners said, our models weren't wrong. Reality just refused to conform to it.
So I don't remember who it was, but
broad thing.
When genius failed, that quote is somewhere in that book.
That's exactly right. And I only point that out to point out that I certainly will go to great lengths to make a cute story that will protect me from dealing with uncertainty, because our nervous system takes uncertainty as a threat. And it turns out like we are in a period of uncertainty, and I don't think we're going back, to be honest.
Well, let me. This is supposed to be about you, the guest, but you pushed my.
Please, this is what I'm here for.
My uncertainty
We're all here
button.
for this.
So, whenever you hear people saying markets hate uncertainty, my knee-jerk response is always markets thrive on certainty.
That's the whole point.
The only time the certainty is when everybody is on the same side of the boat. In late 99, everybody was certain trees grew to the sky. Yeah. And in March 09, everybody was certain markets were going to zero.
That's right.
Except for the handful of people who stepped up and bought.
Yeah.
The future is inherently unknown and unknowable.
That's right.
When people say things are uncertain, I always feel like what they're saying is, normally, I could lie to myself enough that I could BS you people that I have some idea what's going to happen. But goddamn, whatever's going on is so crazy, I can't maintain that fiction anymore, so I default to uncertainty.
That's right.
In reality, most of the time, everything is inherently uncertain.
Let me just real quickly, I'm super interested in what you think about this. I feel like you and I came up, the financial planning industry, the financial advice industry really grew up during a a period that was an aberration. There was for a certain group of people, there was a predictable path of progress.
Give me some years, because
my grandpa, I'm thinking post-war, my grandpa got a degree, could afford a first-time home without salary, stayed there for 30 years, retired with a pension. There was this window.
That was the aberration. The entire post-war period
is the aberration.
Right.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Like the roaring 20s, the uber rich and the rest of us plebes.
Things weren't like that.
That's normal.
Things weren't like that before.
Right.
And they aren't like that now.
That's right.
And I think the
problem
problem
is... we falsely believed that, this is the new era.
The problem is that was when we built all of our tools, our language, our planning tools, our Monte Carlo simulations.
All
our
around that aberration.
It's during that aberration period. I think much more likely is like if you think it's uncertain, feels like uncertain now, like it's not getting more. Like we're not going back there.
No, it'll all settle down. This will all go away.
Yeah, exactly.
Ain't gonna happen.
So I think to me that leads to this really interesting discussion, at least around like, how do I learn if it's a posture shift instead of trying to defend an outdated map, like confirmation by, don't you know 10 best days? Like it just, instead of trying to defend an outdated map.
Explain 10 best days, because it's a great, and 10 worst days, it's a great concept.
Always, right? Like anytime anybody's scared of anything in the markets, we just parade out. You saw this on Twitter back when it was useful, right? Like if anybody said anything bad, like I'm scared or this market scares me, a bunch of financial advisors would jump in the room and say, don't you know if you sell and miss the 10 best days, you may as well be in CDs over the 20-year period or whatever, or you miss the 10 worst days. And I think
they all are clumped close together.
That's exactly right. And I also think that was an effort to say, don't worry, right? When I think, and to spray people with facts and figures. Mm-hmm. When they're feeling irrational.
I like the gun you hold.
Yeah, spray people with facts and figures. Because when you're feeling when you're feeling irrational, the last thing you want is somebody to try and reason with you.
Wait, you're telling me that pure logic doesn't satisfy
Have you tried
emotional...
this with a teenager, right? Like the last thing you want is, what you want is metaphorically a hug first, right? Like we'll get to the facts later, and let's never get to the lecture. And so I think if we shift that posture a bit, where we're like, turns out uncertainty is reality. I don't know what add in sequencing risk, right? Like, are we going to have a great market for the first 5 years of your life or the last 5 years of your life? Like, who knows? You add all this in.
Not that useful in the last 5 years.
That's exactly right. Like it turns out that we're dealing with a very complex adaptive system, and the ability to navigate, make really important decisions in the face of irreducible uncertainty is the primary skill. Like if I was younger, I would be studying complexity theory. I'd be studying being resilient. I'd be studying understanding how to make really important decisions. Mountain guide. Mm-hmm. How do I make really important decisions when I don't know? How do I get comfortable not knowing?
But they're life and death decisions.
And some of my favorite people are like really thoughtful, like people who worked in distressed, because if they're on the ground with the company, they're having to make mission critical decisions, and they do not know. They don't know how they're going to work out. I've got a really good friend that way, and he's just like, I have to, every day. Some of these decisions are thousands of jobs. Right. And I don't know how it's going to work out.
You're making these decisions under intense uncertainty.
With incomplete information, and no amount of spreadsheeting will get you more information. The only way to get the more information is take an action. Fascinating, right? Like, to me, that's the skill. That's what this market is calling for in terms of leadership, is the ability to create containers for collective interpretation rather than scream at people.
Huh. So let's talk about this book.
Sure.
You describe it as a conversation grenade.
Yeah.
Explain.
Yeah. First of all, I think I first heard that term from Hugh MacLeod, the gaping void.
Sure.
Remember Hugh
Love
MacLeod?
his work.
Yeah.
I have some of his stuff on my wall.
Yeah.
And on the opposite wall, some of your stuff.
Well, that's cool. Thank you.
In fact, buy high, sell low, repeat until broke.
Number one.
That's
right.
Is on my wall. That's right. So full disclosure.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I have some of Hugh's stuff in my office too. So conversation grenades, this idea that like, it's the only reason I wrote the book. I swore off writing.
Why?
Well, because I love audio so much. Yeah. Right? I actually had...
Again, not mutually exclusive.
This is exactly right. But I after I wrote the second book, I thought, I'm just going to speak. And then podcasting came around. And I was like, this is amazing.
I had, between Bailout Nation and How Not to Invest, solid 15 years.
Yeah, you did.
Like there's, I needed to recover. That was my refractory period.
That's right. That's right.
Like I need a decade and a half.
That's right. And
I really needed a decade, and it just took me the pandemic to make me start thinking about it.
I kept noticing that people like physical artifacts.
I agree.
And
I don't love a Kindle. I like a book.
And especially that. So the working with Harriman really allowed me to, everything about the book is designed
I'm an
to
idiot.
think of it.
We have the same publisher. I didn't even notice.
Yeah. I'm sure Craig helped you. Yeah,
he's great.
For sure. So everything about that book is designed to feel like you toss it in a room and conversations break out. That's the conversation grenade analogy. Right, you set it on the coffee table. Unpretentious coffee table book. Like I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to mess with. We talked about hardback. I wanted it to be that soft cover. We moved the the front matter, the legal stuff. Go to page 1. There's none of it in there.
You moved it to the back.
They let me move it to the back, and they said nobody's ever asked.
Dude, I love.
Nobody's ever asked, but yes, I was amazed they let me to do it. But there's this stuff's in the back because what reader has ever said?
Nobody
Please
wants
give
to
me
see that crap.
There it is in the back, right there.
I always assumed it was a legal requirement. It had to be up front.
So they said nobody's asked. So they let me do all sorts of things that allowed us to be like, no, this is in service of the reader. We want you just to have this sit. And the number of stories I've heard, like I had it on my table, my son asked me a question, or I sent it out to clients and it's really meant to be a conversation grenade.
So we started out talking about your deceptively simple sketches. Is this simplicity a conscious act of rebellion? There's so much complexity and arcane language. We know every profession uses arcane language to hold lay people at arm's distance. But was this simplicity in your sketches? Is that purposeful, or am I reading too much?
Purposeful.
Purposeful.
Deeply, yeah. Yeah, I think it's maybe just the way my brain works. I only have enough RAM for like one problem at a time.
Okay.
And so I like to get into it, understand nuance, edge cases. You know, it gets like a giant ball. There was actually a sketch in there about this. Like it gets like a big giant, like it's a simple question, simple, boom.
Big
what about this?
yarn,
What about that? What about
right.
that? What about that? What about that? Edge cases, reading it all. And then there it was. And then, yeah, and then once I get in there, I'm like, okay, now, and you actually shared a quote one time about there are a lot of simple...
Investing is simple but hard.
No, there are a lot of answers that are simple, elegant, and wrong.
Oh.
Remember this?
I don't know where I stole that. That could actually be me.
Yeah, no, I remember you shared somebody else's quote.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, because...
Simple, elegant, and wrong.
Yeah, and I really worry about that. Because when you're in that ball of yarn, complex... and you decide to distill or edit, you have to make some conscious decisions about what to leave out. And I often get that wrong. And when I do, I hear about it, and it makes the work a little bit better. There are words and lines in some of those sketches I've been thinking about for over a decade. I removed a word.
Change?
I removed a word that had been in there 15 years.
Which sketch?
The word was...
People you love, experiences, spend the money.
Yeah, that one's one of my favorite ones.
That is one of my all-time favorite ones. You do like a good Venn diagram.
Well, by the way, the Venn diagram police have come after me, so I just call them circle sketches. Oh, dude, I used to get 2-page emails from the Times readers.
I call these people
Venn diagram
picture shaper, picture straighteners.
And but I used to send equal rebuttals, and then finally I just developed a template email that said, "You're right." I call them circle sketches. So yeah, the Venn diagram piece is pretty loosely.
These are legitimate Venn diagrams.
They can make an argument, of course.
No, if it's this over here, and the overlap that you want to focus on.
For sure.
Things that matter, things that you can control is another one of yours.
Yeah, what we should focus on.
And then the overlap. How is that not a Venn diagram?
I don't know. I don't know, but somebody will find. But my point really is that when you distill and leave things out, you get things wrong sometimes. And you asked which one. For
a point, though, you're trying to communicate cleanly and simply.
It's true. But I'm saying some of that feedback's amazing. Like the Venn diagram police weren't particularly helpful, but some of the feedback is amazing. Like, hey, have you ever thought of this? And it makes me reconsider and adjust. And there have been changes that I've made. Like, there's one sketch that says what's important. I used to say what's important to you. It was an alignment sketch. It was like, your use of capital aligned with what you say is important to you. And that word say.
Well, it's implying that it's not important, but you're claiming it's important.
That word say bothered me for a decade before. I was like, no. We want to get to what's important to you, not what you say.
You were hinting at another problem with people not speaking.
That's right. Revealed,
honestly.
Stated versus revealed
Right.
preferences. I'm more interested in the revealed preferences. What's actually important to you.
That's really interesting.
Yep.
So let's stay with the concept of spending money.
Yeah.
Right? Since I just flipped to whatever that was. Every advisor that manages money for people can tell you story after story after story. My favorite one I'll share here. Hey, Barry's a car guy. He has a boat. You want to buy a boat and a car, why don't you talk to Barry? So I speak to the client. So I'm thinking about buying a 60-foot, 50-foot, whatever, sailboat, and I'm thinking about buying a Ferrari. I go, that's really easy. What's your boating experience? 0. You don't start with a 50, 60-foot sailboat that requires a crew. It's $2.5 million. You'll take it out twice. You'll sell it for a 30% loss.
That's right.
On the other hand, by the way, this guy could buy a Ferrari a month for the rest of eternity, and he's fine.
Yeah.
Go buy the Ferrari, take the whole family down to the Ferrari High Performance Driving School, which I'll let you in on a little secret. All of these advanced driving schools, they're really defensive driving classes in disguise.
That's right.
And you will learn not only the limits of the car that you'll get nowhere near, but you'll learn the limits of your own driving ability.
Yeah.
And more importantly, learn how to operate within your own skill set.
And so will your kids if you bring them.
That's right. So everybody becomes a better, safer driver.
Yeah.
So he goes out and buys the Ferrari. They do the class. They love it.
Yeah.
He also buys the boat. A year later, he sells it for a 30% loss.
Yeah.
Anytime Barry gets on the phone with a client, the advisor always says, do not mention the boat. So the only thing worse than being right is being wrong. And I could say this at the back of a podcast because you can confess to murder at the end of a podcast and no one knows. No one will hear. So I'm very comfortable saying this here.
Yeah.
But so with that, Barry, digression here, let's talk about how do you help people focus on what's important, what matters, and what the purpose of money really is. What should they be doing with their money?
Yeah.
Especially later in life, they've accumulated a nice pile, can't take it with you.
Yeah, running experiment, like practice. Like often one of the things we see is the very things that got you to that spot are working against you going forward, right? Like you're being frugal, saving aggressively, being very disciplined, and now you're saying, hey, I've been putting off this delayed gratification thing was really important, maybe, but it definitely got you to the spot. You get to a point at which you should no longer delay. There's not going to be time to delay.
It's so tough for some people to make
Super.
that
So you
switch.
practice. You just like your boat
Start
example is
small.
great. Yeah, I mean, I literally have had people who can't spend any money, and like you're saying, have enough money that they could spend it for the rest of their lives.
Right.
Go get a coffee with a friend, pay for theirs, and just go on the trip and enjoy the trip, right? Just one of my favorite stories is from Alan Smith in the UK. Had a client, he's a great financial planner, had a client that and he's told this story publicly, had a client that had relatives that had moved. There was a bunch of people from Wales that moved to Argentina for mining way back in the day.
I know exactly where you're going to go with this.
A bunch of his relatives moved, a bunch of her relatives moved. She'd always wanted to go see the Welsh national rugby team play the Pumas in Argentina.
How hard is that?
And she was like, I can't. And he's like, you could do this every year you could do this every month for the rest of your life. It's like, well, I can't sit that long. You could have a lay flat bed.
Right.
And so he finally.
Or you could go from Wales to New York, go from New York to Brazil, go from Brazil to Argentina. You don't have to do it in one trip.
So he finally, just over time, got her used to the idea. She went and she says it was the best. We're never going to replicate those things. We're never going to.
AI is not going to replace that.
No. And so to me, it's like, dude, I think I don't know if I'd rather err on being irresponsible, but I know we should spend the money. Money.
But, when irresponsibility never comes into it. You're looking at someone's portfolio.
Yeah,
hey,
that's true.
You have $10 million. You live on $350 a year. you want to bust out another 50 so you can take the whole family to the old country and show them where your grandparents came from? Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even $100,000.
Yeah. And so I think to me,
these, by the way, are very first world problems.
Of course, but they're problems. Like I've decided, Brene Brown got really clear about like comparative suffering does us no good.
Right.
So I always like whenever I hear first world problems, I'm always like, well, yeah, but this is a challenge, and it happens to be the challenge that many of your clients and the people I'm talking to are facing. So why not just practice? Like, can we pick something small, right? Something you've always wanted to do, right? And it might be simple, like take the grandkids to the art museum this weekend.
I'm going to share another line with you.
Yeah.
Not comparative suffering, often falsely attributed to Teddy Roosevelt.
Mm-hmm.
It hadn't been around till like the late 1980s. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, for sure.
What a great phrase that is.
So
and it's
good.
really, there's always someone with a bigger boat or a larger house or a faster car, or whatever you're envious of. You have this car, are you really happy with it? Then who cares what the guy down the block has? That's pointless.
I just real quickly, that's one thing that I think makes this even harder is we're never exactly sure, do we really want the boat? Do you know what I mean?
Well, if you're not sure, then that's easy. Don't get the boat.
Yeah, go out on, but you could go out for a day.
You could rent a boat.
Try little experiments. Because I just remember growing up, I grew up in the hills in Utah, right? We all had BMX bikes.
I love this BMX story of yours.
I always want a slightly better BMX bike.
Oh, no. You wanted a really nice bike, and what did you end up doing?
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the road bike? The Moots that I ended up spending Moots?
Yes.
Titanium bike out of steamboat. Different story. But yeah, that's one of those moments where are you kidding? Those things were, I could not, like, I think those are $6,000 or $7,000. That's nothing today in terms of people.
Oh, no, you could drop 10 grand on a bike.
But still, it was like, and that bike, like dollar per unit of fun, I've never made a better investment. Right. But
what's the BMX story?
When I was little, when I was like 8, we all had, like, I had slightly better BMX bike than some of my buddies, and some of my buddies had slightly better. That's all I knew.
Right.
I didn't know at the time that I was supposed to want a private jet. And now I do. Like, now Instagram has taught me. So I think we have this problem of like cultivating our comparison set. So now we're talking, even getting clear about the word goal is hard. Because you don't know if it's your mom's goal, if it's society's goal, if it's Instagram's goal. $5 million in a sailboat? Like, when did you...
Insane.
Where did that come from?
Let me share a fun private jet story with you.
I love private jet stories.
So whenever anybody used to ask me, hey, you going to sell the firm? What's your FU money? Questions like that.
Yep.
My answer has always been the same. Whatever it takes to never step foot into a commercial airport ever again. And then I made the mistake of saying this in public somewhere, and I started getting Marquis Jet, NetJet, all these guys started sending me pitches. So out of curiosity, one day I said, run the numbers for me. What does this really look like? So it turns out, East Coast, 6,000, 6,500 an hour. Cross country to California, 8,000. You want to go to Europe, it's 12,000 per hour of travel. So do the math. So I start... deep down inside, I'm a numbers guy. I'm like, oh, this is $250,000, $500,000 a year. For that to be rational, you have to be not have $10 million. You have to be earning $10 million gross to spend a mere 5% of your annual income and cap gains on a PJ at $500,000 per. PJ right from Succession. I never heard that phrase before that show. And so all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I have no interest in that. I don't ever expect to be pulling down $10 million a year. And while it's attractive bypassing all of airports, I kind of learn, all right, so I'm not going to go on high traffic days. We travel for Thanksgiving weekend. I'm the first flight out Thursday morning. Blow through security in 5 minutes. 2 hours later, it's a zoo. So, all right, I'm not going to spend $500,000 a year. I could spend a little bit of brain power trying to navigate around the worst. I won't arrive at the airport at 5 o'clock because I don't want to get stuck in traffic. And I won't take a 9 o'clock flight in the morning that require. So, like, all right, I'm not flying private. I'm trying to fly a little smarter commercial. But even if you're in the front of the plane.
Yeah, but that to me is a really good example of like thinking that something might be important running a little bit of an experiment, just actually running the numbers, deciding.
Right.
So we're just constantly narrowing in for our whole
Right.
lives on, and those things change.
It would still be delightful to be able to just show up at the airport.
And you made a trade-off
leave
decision.
when you want to
and,
leave, and save a day of travel on each side.
For sure.
But is that worth
The trade-off?
$500,000 a year?
Yeah. To you, it's not.
In order to make it, I'm oversharing, but I'm going to overshare one more thing. So friends of my wife get a pied-à-terre in the city. They're empty nesters. They downsize. They have a house, and then they have the city apartment. And I started thinking about a pied-à-terre. We loved when we lived down at Gramercy Park, and I start looking at this, and I start running the numbers. And I'm like, wait a second, just the monthly co-op fees are like $3 or $4 grand a month, to say nothing of the insurance, the taxes,
Right.
and the $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 million purchase price, whatever the hell it is. And I'm doing the math, and I'm like, gee, this is really like $5 grand a month. It's $60,000 a year. I can't spend. And we take weekends in the city. I can't spend $60,000 a year on hotels, restaurants. Like I can't get it. I can't spend that much if I tried.
Right.
We do a few weekends in the city. It's a couple $1,000,
Yeah.
but it's certainly not 60 grand.
Right,
A pied-à-terre makes no sense to me. And I'm explaining this. I'm having this conversation with a very wealthy client, and I see this look on her face, and I go, "Oh, you're saying if $60,000 is too much in co-op fees, you really can't afford this pied-à-terre."
Yeah.
And she says, "Well, I wasn't exactly thinking it, but you're not wrong."
Right.
And what I was about to defend myself with was, well, the $60,000 just isn't worth it to me. But before I said that, it's like, yeah, but if you had $50 or $100 million, who cares? I just want a place that I'm comfortable in the bed, my clothes are in the closet,
Right.
and I'm not dealing with checking into a hotel. That's worth 60 grand to me if you have X dollars.
Yeah.
And she never said that, but I immediately
Saw the whole
I
calculating
immediately
moment.
like.
I have a question for you.
I can't afford this.
On the heels of that, I have a question for you. What's the last thing you decided I'm going to buy that, and you didn't? You were just like, I don't care. I'm just buying it. Doesn't matter how much it costs. That you didn't actually, because both those examples, you're like, I wanted a thing, I went and ran the numbers, decided not to do a thing. Is there a time when you're
When was the
like,
last
to
time I
hell with
decided
the-
not to do it?
No, you decided to do it. You're like, I didn't even care what the number said. I didn't even look. I just wanted to do that thing so bad. I was just like, I'm doing it.
There's two answers. There's the Barry before he turned 60 and the Barry after he turned 60.
Really?
When Barry turned 60, so I think this is a function of immaturity. I never had a midlife crisis. Probably because when I should have, I was still an idiot child.
Yeah.
I still was 10, 20 years maturity level below where I should have been.
Yeah.
And I turned 60, and I very much woke up with the sensation, all right, fourth quarter, down by 7. If you want to win this game, you got to get busy. Like, literally, that was what I thought.
Right.
And I don't know if I ever told this story on the podcast, and the spouse still survives, so I can't really go into details. But person about to sell a business for a ton of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, gets a diagnosis, 6 months to live. And when you know this, if you're managing money for enough families, the actuarial tables are such that people will begin to die. I mean, that's just the normal human finite lifespan. And so it's easy to start to pick up that pattern of life is short. What are you waiting for? So the combination of turning 60 soon after the pandemic ended, and a lot of people lost a lot of people during that, I kind of said money should never prevent anyone from experiencing joy. And so what I started doing is not saying no and gifting a lot of stuff. Like my favorite thing in the world around Christmas is to pick a book and send it to 10, 20, 30 friends. The same book. And
So
I'm like,
good.
$20 is
Yeah.
$30.
Yeah.
This year it was The Uncool by Cameron Crowe.
Well, yeah.
And I was just talking about this with somebody, and I said, I gave that book to a few people for Christmas, and I went through Amazon. I gave 26 of these to various people.
So good.
It's $300.
Yeah.
Anybody who's making
I love that idea, by the way.
A reasonable income. By the way, you don't have to wait until Christmas.
I know. I was just thinking about that. Carl's Secret Book Club.
It's
like launching that.
It's a really fun thing. Now there's a little bit of a puzzle figuring out what's the right book for the right person, and not everybody gets the same book because they're different people.
Yeah.
But all this comes back to
spend the money.
So I. Again, it's the end of the podcast, so I can say stuff.
Alexis, no cutting any of this out.
So 1988 911 Cabrio, I purchased 3 or 4 years ago for like 60 grand. It was an old ratty car that needed to be restored, and the plan was to convert it to an EV. This car wasn't right for that, so I ended up doing it with an 87 coupe with 300,000 kilometers on it. But the 88 turned out to be this rare matching numbers M491 911 that was worth a ton more than I paid for it.
Wow.
So I put a bunch of money into it. My wife was complaining. My wife was complaining she doesn't get to drive a stick anymore. So, hey, honey, here's your weekend car. I bought it for this reason. We're just parking cash in it. It's worth double what I paid. Drive it. And she's like, it's loud, it smells, it doesn't have ABS, it doesn't. She goes, nice clutch, but no airbags, no ABS. And I'm like, so what are you saying? By the way, this is my cross to bear. My wife is very unhappy that I got her a old 911, and she is forcing me to buy a newer Porsche. Like, these are problems that most married men do not have. That's how you know you married the right woman.
If your wife says nice clutch,
right,
you're onto something.
I taught her to drive a stick when we were dating. She drives a stick better than... So her daily is an unusual color. By the way, another great purchase during the pandemic when everybody was freaked out, I got her a Panamera 4S hybrid in amethyst metallic, super rare color, substantially less than it should have. And one of the guys from my car group says to me one day, you have the only amethyst metallic Panamera on the island. I saw your wife driving it. I tried to catch her. She's got a crazy lead foot. I couldn't catch her. I was beeping. I was waving. So I'm like, I'll ask her. So I go home that night and I said, hey, how was your day? She goes, crazy thing. This guy in a green 911 was haranguing me, was chasing me, and I just put the hammer down and this guy couldn't catch me. And I said, that was Joe, that green. It was green, right? She's like, yeah, that was Joe. He was just swinging, trying to catch up to say hi. I'm like, he said he couldn't catch you. It's a GT3. It's like the fastest street legal, just below the Turbo S. There's only one other car that's the fastest street legal Porsche with a stick shift.
So good.
So
that's what I'm talking about.
So I am in the process of swapping the 88 for a 2024. I know exactly what I'm going to replace it with. Wow. I found a little bit of a unicorn.
Wow.
The only problem is the color is wrong, but it turns out a new car, a relatively new car, you put a PPF wrap around it to protect the paint. Now they make those wraps in colors, so you could get, I really like this paint to sample purple violet. That's like a $20,000 upgrade when you order the car new. No, just put plastic on it. It's $6,000, and now you have the car whatever color you want. Good. So she picked that color. She's going to be the purple. I found this. It's a GTS. It's a Cabrio. It's a stick. It's a chalk interior, which is even rarer, and rarer still, ceramic brakes.
So good.
It's just the wrong color. It's like, I'm going to fix this. Don't worry about it.
So good.
So that was this is an obscene amount of money, and I don't care.
Yeah. You tell me that 20 years from now.
Nobody looks back and says, why did I buy that?
Yeah.
We look back in regret on the things we didn't do.
Right. That's exactly
not the things we did.
I mean, my version of that is 2 months ago, I did not know that my 24, 25-year-old son 24-year-old son was going to ask me to go spend some time on adventure motorcycles this summer. It wasn't in my financial plan.
Do you have a license for that?
Yeah, I actually do, because 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I was on a BMW, the 900 GS.
Oh, that's a big bike.
Yeah, and so we just got Yamaha T7s. So the Tenere 700, which is a great bike. But my son is the one. I didn't know that. It's costing me more money than I'd planned on spending.
Who cares?
And I'm not going to regret a second of it.
Isn't that what else?
That's the whole point.
First of all, you have to stop, and I know you have gratitude drawings in here. Yeah. The fact that it's a realistic option for you or I to indulge in these ridiculous spending things, and part of me knows how utterly ridiculous this is. So first, you have to have some gratitude for that. But second, if not for that, what are you going to do with the money?
And the fact that my 20-something son asked me to do it.
He's enthusiastic.
The answer is yes. Right? The answer is yes. You know? And so when am I going to look back 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now and regret that? We spent more money than we really should have on our 4 years living in New Zealand.
Right.
And I would do it.
What years were you in New Zealand?
16 to 20. We didn't mean to do it. It wasn't political. We went 16 for a year. We ended up just staying for 4. Yeah, 2016.
I assume it was fantastic.
Unbelievable.
Right.
We spent way more. It was
the whole
borderline
family.
Irresponsible in this case even. But it was a requirement. My wife was essentially like, after the financial crisis and everything that went on, I was just a broken human. And
really?
Oh, just.
I never thought of you that way.
Well, that's nice of you. But yeah, I did. That was part of the problem, is I was a superhuman out
you did
here,
a good job
but not
it.
inside, not in the house. And it was just a lack of patience and not deep presence. And she was like, "We're going. Would you like to come?" And I was like, "Yes." We ended up staying 4 years. And it was hard money-wise. Like, it was a bad decision financially.
Were you working there?
Yeah, but like you in New Zealand, you're not doing the same thing. Like,
you're not that far from China. Did you do anything in Asia at all?
I did very little. No. So,
really?
But my point really is, it probably wasn't the best from a spreadsheet financial decision, but I would do it again all over. So for sure, same thing with the car. Spend to the degree that you can. Find the things that align with your use of capital and your family and the experiences with the people you love. We know that we will not regret. We will not regret spending time and money on experiences with people we love.
So, we've been at this for a solid 90 minutes. Let me jump to my favorite questions I ask all my guests. Otherwise, I'm going to keep you here through dinner. Yep. Starting with, who were your early mentors who helped shape your career?
I know you asked that question, and I thought really carefully about it. And the one that actually probably had the biggest shaping on me was
Ron.
a little far. Ron had a huge impact. So between Ron and Seth Godin.
Oh, really? Seth Godin stuff is really interesting.
Yeah, and Seth, I always saw Seth as somebody who was doing something here that applied here. And that was really like...
So, doing something in a narrow little space,
like he was a marketing guy, marketing, but, it had broad application and doing it consistently over a long period of time. I mean, Behavior Up Radio was started because of Seth's daily blog. He said to me, "Why aren't you doing a daily blog?" I said, "I don't like to write." He said, "You like to talk." And so I started. We're episode 1500 now. You said,
unbelievable.
Yeah. So Seth Godin, Ron Lieber had the biggest impact on me.
Let's talk about books. What are you reading right now? What are some of your favorites?
My favorite,
and I know when you're writing a book, it's really hard to read books.
Yeah. No, my one of the most two really impactful books, Fooled by Randomness.
Nassim Taleb.
Come on.
I wanted to have him on the podcast. He told me to go after myself.
He probably said that exactly.
I'm giving you the polite version.
Yeah, I'm sure. So that book, and then Pema Chodron's When Things Fall Apart.
That's a really interesting
Pema Chodron, when things... well, they're both, if you understand, they're both related to this idea of this false sense of certainty that we talked about. So Pema's work has had a massive impact on me. Reading right now, I just finished, literally last night, I just finished Homesick Nomad. And I can't remember her name, Brianna.
Fiction or nonfiction?
No, it's a memoir.
Okay.
Short little memoir about a lady who drives her van around the desert of southern Utah. So it was like a home. She has a Utah connection, Salt Lake connection. So that was really good. And Bison for the Broken Heart, or Buffalo for the Broken Hearted, Dan O'Brien's book.
Someone else mentioned that.
I think you. Oh, I told Meb about it in his book roundup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh, really interesting.
Yep.
What are you streaming these days? Tell us what you're either listening to or watching.
Mike Birbiglia.
So hilarious.
Working It Out.
You know he has a podcast also.
Working It Out. That's his podcast.
Oh, I thought that was the name of his stand-up on Netflix.
I listen to it religiously. I'm trying to get, Mike, if you're listening, I've been trying to get a hold of Mike for a long time.
So there's a handful of comedians with their own podcast now.
Sure.
That not just Seth Rogen, not just Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Tom Papa has a podcast.
Mark Maron, the original.
Mark is the OG in the space.
Yeah.
Who's the
Pete
guy
Holmes?
Who's the guy who was the co-writer? Blocks with Dave Chappelle. Drawing a blank on his name. His pod is occasionally interesting.
Pete Holmes is actually really great too.
Why do I know the name Pete Holmes?
He's another one of these Netflix comedians. It's amazing. Like
Good Hang with Amy Poehler. I was just watching her with Billie Eilish. That was really kind of fun.
Yeah. Birbiglia.
There's a ton of them.
Yeah, really. I mean, the reason I really like Birbiglia is it's really about like the process, right? And I think about a lot of my work, especially the public speaking, about like testing bits, seeing how they land, paying attention. That didn't work quite the way I wanted to, and Mike does a really good job of explaining that. And then I just finished The Dark Wizard, the story of Dean Potter, who was an El Cap climber long before El Cap climbing was, this mainstream thing, and about his untimely passing through base jumping or something. It was an amazing story.
So there are a lot of these hobbies. Like I don't mind going fast on the track.
Yeah.
There are a lot of these hobbies where my brain does the risk-reward analysis and say, there's just way too much random risk in this.
Oh,
like base jumping.
He's a wingsuiter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was driven by the fact that the only thing that made him feel alive was the death consequence.
Right.
That's a whole other thing. It's called The Dark Wizard. Yeah.
Psychological issue.
Yeah, for sure. But it was super interesting.
We'll skip that. Final two questions. What sort of advice would you give a recent college grad interested in a career in either being a financial planner, being an author, being an artist? And I know you sometimes don't think of yourself as an artist, but you clearly are.
Yeah. Just take the next step, right? Like I think like getting too caught up in how is this going to work and what's
Journey
the narrative.
Of 1,000 steps.
And
1,000 miles starts with
try
the first
not
step.
to compare. Like there's a Lao Tzu quote, "Be who you really are and go the whole way." Mm-hmm. And I think I wish I would have started that a little earlier. Like, what does it even mean? Okay, take one small step. Take one small step. And if I was preparing in finance, I'd get more comfortable, especially in the advice side, get more comfortable with learning to be deeply present with people, curiosity, questions.
Deeply present.
I think financial advisors aren't going to be paid for solutions. If they are right now, they're not going to be paid. They're going to be paid for presence. Like opening up the ability to have these, because the solutions are table stakes at this point, right?
That's
and
right.
But it's like self-driving cars. I was in the Waymo, right? It was safer than the Uber driver right before.
Did it feel very weird?
But here's the thing. I still had to tell it where to go. And even more importantly, on the journey, if I saw something like, oh, wait, what's that park? Right? I think that requires...
Could you do that in a Waymo? Could you ask it to stop?
Yeah, you can tell it to stop. Yeah, I don't know how you do it, but you can tell it to stop.
On the app,
so I'm a big fan of self-driving money. I can't wait. And there's still going to be somebody there that needs to say, hey, is the boat really important to you? Go try the racetrack thing, that to me is curiosity and presence. Still, you got to be a technical rock star, but curiosity and presence is where the value will be.
Final question. What is it that you know about the world of investing or psychology today? Might have been useful back in the 1990s when you were first looking at that Netscape IPO.
Yeah, that compounding does all the work, right? Like that if stop spending time trying to find the best investment and just own stuff. If it compounds, I don't know who said this. If it compounds, let it compound.
The line I use is, your job is to prevent yourself from interfering with your portfolio's ability to compound.
Exactly right. That time is the thing that matters.
Absolutely. Carl, this has been absolutely a delight.
So
normally, I want to make this about the guest, but there's something about you that just encourages me.
My whole goal.
It's your aura. You bring it out in people, which is probably why you were a good advisor. You get people to open up to you.
That's a really high compliment. Thank you.
It is.
Yeah,
It absolutely is.
Yeah, cheers.
We have been speaking with Carl Richards. He is the author of the book, Your Money, Reimagining Wealth in 101 Simple Sketches. If you enjoy this conversation, well, be sure and check out any of the 639 we've done over the past 12 years. You can find those at YouTube, Bloomberg, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the crack team that helps put these conversations together each week. Alexis Noriega is my very patient video producer, New Yorker dropping the R. Sean Russo is my researcher. Anna Luke is my producer. I'm Barry Ritholtz. You've been listening to Masters in Business on Bloomberg Radio.